You're listening to the Mile You're In podcast. Everything running related from 100 meters to 100 miles. And now, here's your host, Phil Patterson Jr.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Mile You're In podcast. Crazy weekend for sure. Before I get into this, and as I do normally, I want to thank my Patreon supporters, but I want to take a second to just explain what this is, because I had a conversation with a friend last week that brought to my attention that people may not really understand what I'm talking about when I say supporters. So the three supporters, the anonymous one that requests to remain anonymous, Becky from Miami, and Francine from Pembroke Pines. When I say they are supporters, what that means is financially they have committed on a monthly basis to support the show. I won't say how much, and that's not something that I ask for, but it is appreciated because it does go towards the cost of advertising, the equipment, and when I do interviews, the software that I use, you have to pay for. So it just helps. It makes this hobby a little bit easier and less stressful financially. Not that it costs a lot of money, but honestly, everything helps, right? So it's nice to have people that back your hobby and your passion and support you along that journey. So yes, the link is always there in the show notes. If you're ever interested, you can make a one-time donation. I've had people do that if they don't want to sign up to commit to something monthly. You could just make a donation in any amount. So enough with that. Let's get to the episode itself. And touching on that again, I had a conversation with another friend. They sent me a message this morning that reminded me of the original podcast episode that I made about what was supposed to happen this weekend, the one that was titled "If It's Meant to Be." And it kind of like all came full circle. So long story short, I was supposed to be in New York this past weekend to run my 100-mile race, and I won't get into the details, but basically the plans didn't work out and I was unable to make it to New York. Because of that, I honestly was very disappointed, very let down, specifically for the reasons why. I was very hurt, very bitter. I won't hide that. Everyone that I text and talk to during those 24 to 48 hours where I was trying to figure out what to do, they knew I was open and honest, as I always am. So I decided I put in all the time, effort, and training to prepare for this race. I might as well at least give it a shot here locally and see what I could do. I knew the weather conditions obviously were going to be way worse than New York. The high there was supposed to be 82. I know some people say, oh, well, it's flatter here. Honestly, that course was going to be very flat. To be honest, I think I'd have to go back and look, but I probably the elevation would have been about the same, to be honest, because there you were only crossing, I think, 3 bridges the entire time. So the elevation would have been about the same as what I had planned here, which, yes, I'm I always say I'm very acclimated to the weather here, just being born and raised here, training in it all the time. The heat can get to me, but it typically doesn't affect me in that way. So, and I've run pretty much all my 100-milers have been in here, in the state of Florida, and I've done solo ones before, two that I can remember off the top of my head. So this was nothing new, right? I created a route, a big old rectangle to run all the way up to West Palm Beach, over to the actual beach, down to around the Fort Lauderdale area, back to 441 and back up. So a big old rectangle that was going to equal 100 miles. I was prepared. As I always do, I bring my card with me so I can stop at gas stations along the way or fast food restaurants or wherever to get something to eat, get something to drink, use a bathroom, whatever is needed. And as I started out, everything was going fine. I was walking a little bit earlier to conserve. During training I don't walk as much, but I'm not running 100 miles when I train, so I strategized earlier and more frequent walk breaks just to conserve that energy, work different muscle groups, keep the heart rate down, keep the body temperature down. Nothing new, right? I've been here, done that. I know what to do. So I guess I could really fast forward to like the first hiccup was, I don't know, I want to say maybe like mile 20, somewhere in that range, because I didn't think about this. It's been a while since I've run this far and had to use my card this much on a run that on the third stop my card got declined. And I instantly knew why, because I'm sure it started to look like fraudulent activity with me hitting all these random gas stations along the way and just spending about $5 at a time. So thankfully I planned, with this being a longer run, I brought cash with me in case during the night or if there were long stretches between stores, if I came across like a vending machine or something, then I could at least use cash. So I had cash on me, which I normally don't, which helped. And now it's funny because I'm in the middle of running, and now I'm on the phone with Bank of America as I'm running and trying to just get this all squared out and explaining to them what I'm doing and that it's not fraudulent activity. Please reactivate my card. I need it for the next 30 hours or so, and that got resolved pretty quickly. But I was feeling good. I've been going to the gym for about a month now, a couple days a week, and adding in strength training specifically on the legs, which I definitely in the last few training runs was noticing the difference, and I definitely felt it during this run. Just that every little bit helps, right? And it builds the surrounding muscles, the supporting muscles that you don't realize you're using or could use. And it just helps make everything a little bit easier on the run. So I was out moving at a great pace. I was really just trying to, I knew when it came to the walking portion, I'm usually around 17 to 18 minute miles. So I was trying to keep the running, walking pace under 15 if possible, as close to 13 as possible would be great. And that's what I was doing. I was really just constantly in the high 12s, low 13s, and I was doing great. And I know how it is. No matter how hard I try to slow down, I was impressed. That was slower than I normally am. But I knew it's impossible for me to slow down as much as I'd like or I need to. So I just was doing the best I could and walking a little bit more. But even then, it was like you get that agitated, like you just want to start running again, and you have to fight that urge constantly. So. Again, everything was just going through. I mean, the sun definitely was kicking my butt, and there were a few friends that I was texting along the way, just giving them updates every 5 miles or so, to let them know how it was going, but also let them know where I was, how I was doing, so they knew I was okay. And I just remember, like, I looked behind me and I saw some dark clouds, and then when I looked a little bit further, I could see that it was pouring, and I was just praying, like, just to get some of that rain. Obviously not anything too crazy, but enough just to, like, cool me down a little bit, get the body temperature down a little bit, and kind of spark, because I was getting in a little bit of a funk with just the constant sun with no breeze. I was out on 441, so if you're local and you know it, especially once you get north of Boca, there's nothing out there. There's no tree coverage, there's no building coverage. It's just wide open farmland. So the sun is just beating down on you, and then you got the bugs from all, like, the farm area and the plants areas, and it's just like it could get frustrating. So I was making the best of it. I was taking pictures of, like, nice scenery that I saw, a bunch of, like, bulls and cows that I saw in one section. Saw, like, a really tiny baby turtle that I was gonna take a picture of, but I was running, and I didn't feel like stopping just to try to take this picture of this little turtle, which I would have probably had to squat down to do, and it was not in my interest at that moment to do, so I just kept going. But I was having fun. I had the music going. I was making jokes to myself, to the people, the friends that I was texting. Like, everything was going good. The rain definitely helped. It kind of revived me for a little bit. I actually got to another gas station right at that time that was taking cash only. So I was just like, oh man, thank God I brought this cash, because you gotta expect the unexpected, right? You gotta plan for the worst, and it's a good thing I had the cash on me, because it definitely helped. It came in handy. So I get to where I now have to turn west. I saw another, like, storm coming, so that was cool, because it was helping, like, at least block the sun from being as aggressive as it was. But you got to remember, down here, especially, like, once it rains and that storm passes through, now the humidity gets worse, because now the sun comes back out, and it's like just that evaporation and the humidity, everything goes up. So it's like a up and down roller coaster of, like, you're happy to get that rain, but you hope it, like, you want it to last, but you don't want it to be too bad because of the other issues that it can cause with the flooding and the feet. And it's like, you got to be careful what you wish for, right? So I finally get headed west, and it was just at, like, mile 34. So I'm still feeling good. My calves, I got stopped at the intersection, and I was standing there, and I noticed my calves were starting to tighten up and get just, like, really sore and stiff. So I'm texting my friends, and the two of them that are runners, this is where it's nice to have, like, those running friends, because they'll remind you of the things that your non-running friends don't think of. They both were like, stretch. And it's funny, I told the other one, I'm like, this is why you need a crew when you do these things, because the obvious is so, like, you're oblivious to the obvious, right? Like, you just get so caught up in what you're doing, and sometimes you zone out, you just blank out, and you don't think about the obvious, the stuff that you've done during training. Sometimes you start to forget, and that was one of the key moments to the run, because there was a 7-Eleven right there, and I was thirsty, I was hungry, so I was like, this is perfect time, and I'll run in there, get what I need, stretch. And I'll tell you, that stretch, like, it gave my legs new life. Like, everything was loose again, everything was feeling fresh again. So, like, my pace was picking back up, running was getting a little bit easier, the walk breaks weren't as stiff. and it also was nice because my back is always an issue for me, and the more I walk, the tighter it gets. So while I was stretching, I was able to stretch out my back as well and kind of crack it and just get it loosened up a little bit as well. So from that point on, it was like, why have I not been stretching for the last 34 miles? Every time I got stuck at an intersection, what? Because again, you get so caught up, you're focusing on the time and the pace and all these other things. So it was nice to have that reminder, like don't forget the important, obvious things, the basic, simple things that you should be doing. So that got the pace going again, and I actually. As always, my first mile is typically the fastest because you're the most fresh, and I usually run the first mile that's my warm up anyways. But I forget, I think it was maybe 39, like mile 39 ended up being my second fastest mile because I was fresh again, and now like another storm was kind of coming through, so like I was getting a little bit of a breeze and some shade. But now I was running into probably, I have to honestly say, in all the years I've been running, which today is June? Today's June 19th. So actually in a couple days, June 23rd, will be my 10-year running anniversary. Runniversary, I think they call it. So that's pretty cool, right? So in my 10 years, I'll say, of running, the number one thing that I absolutely hate, and I think I mentioned this in my Running is BS episode. Gnats. I absolutely hate the gnats. When I was thinking about this episode, during that moment of the run, there were a lot of F-bombs being dropped, and I was already in my head preparing what I was going to say right now, and I was going to say, excuse my language, and I was just going to drop the bombs left and right, but I'm more calm now. I've thought about it, so I'm just gonna say, you know what I'm thinking. But those gnats, oh my gosh, like it was so bad, and it was only in that like mile 35 to maybe 38, 39. So it was really only like 3 or 4 miles of it, but it was like no matter where I went, I tried different sides of the road. It didn't matter. They were on both sides. Unless I was able to get in the bike lane, getting a little bit away from like the trees and the bushes and kind of like the little waterways there, the canals. But it wasn't safe because that section of the road, the bike lane was real thin, and it just didn't seem safe. So I had to stay more on the sidewalk, and it was like they were getting in my eye, they were getting in my nose, in my mouth, and they're all on you. So it's like even when you go to use your hand to wipe them off, they're all over your hand. So you're just rubbing them around and moving them from one position to another, one spot on your body to another. You're not actually getting them off. So like I'm like wiping my hands on my clothes, but they're on my clothes too, because now my clothes are soaked, so they're getting stuck to the clothes. It was like no matter what I did, there was nothing I could touch to wipe my hands clean enough to then wipe my hands or my face and get that clean enough. It was so aggravating and so disgusting. And then like the few occasions where I would get it to actually like get my face clear enough, and I'd get them out of my eyelashes and like everything felt normal, then you hit another, and you can't even see them. That's what's even worse. Like occasionally you might see like a bunch of them swirling off in some section, and you're like, okay, I can avoid that. But they're so small, and it's so bright, and there's so much going on out there that you just don't see them. You're just hit. Oh my god. So let me just say that like the gnats really frustrated me for those 3 to 4 miles. Like I didn't all I could do, I was running faster to try to just get through it, but I get through it. And then a funny moment as I'm now getting to the turnpike and I look over, so Okeechobee Boulevard and the Turnpike. If you're heading either direction, you should see it. I think, I'm not sure, but when I looked south, there was a sign right there on the side of the road that said mile 100, and I was just like, oh, like this is, it's kind of like fitting, right? I'm running 100 miles and there's the 100-mile sign. Like it was funny to me. So I'm pushing through. I'm doing good. I get to, I think it was like mile 43ish, 40, somewhere between 42 and 43. And now it was time to, I hit A1A, I'm beachside. Now it's time to start heading south. So the good and bad about this was that now I had some shade, right? Because now the sun is starting to get more west. So I got a lot of shade from the beach condos and everything that's along the beach. And I got a nice breeze now coming off the water. But the negative to that is the breeze is a strong, constant headwind breeze. So it's like trying to get a consistent pace at that point when you're now 42 miles in it's hard work. It's exhausting. So I was pacing myself a little bit, and then I also have a friend that lives in West Palm that was going to meet me at a certain point in that area to bring me something. They asked what I wanted, and this is the fun thing about ultras, or at least for me, is you're burning so much and you get so hungry that whatever you want, you just enjoy it. You don't hold back. So I said either get me a McDonald's cheeseburger or a chicken sandwich and a large Coke and then some ice to put in my vest. And sure enough, I think it was around just at, 40, I think I was like 45.98, like 0.2 away from 46. She showed up and she had the chicken sandwich, which I was devouring. I probably didn't look very appealing at that moment. I'm sure there was mayonnaise just getting all in my beard, which I can't imagine how many bugs and gnats were in there as well. They're probably dead at that point. I was going to say they were probably enjoying the mayonnaise, but they're probably dead at that point. The soda was so refreshing, the ice cold soda. And it's funny because she's short and I'm tall. So like she's trying to put the ice in the back of my vest. I'm trying to like squat down so that I'm more at like her height, so it's easier for her to get the ice in my vest. But like my legs are like wobbling at that point to try to like hold a mini half squat position. So now she's standing on the curb trying to get a couple inches of height. Like we're just spilling ice all over the place. I'm sure it looked weird to anyone driving by, any onlookers. But it really helped. It really was refreshing. My back did, which I didn't think about, but it started to go numb, which was an interesting feeling. Like there's something back there, but now you can't feel it. It was kind of weird. But like as the ice melted and just ran down my back and down my legs, it was like very cooling and refreshing. This part of the course though was tough because it's a lot of private property, like very high-end mansions. So on one side you have private beach with no sidewalk. It's literally just like it's a 2-lane road with no bike lane and no sidewalk. So for a good 2 miles or so, I was running in the road, and thankfully it's not too heavy with traffic, and people were being respectful and giving me some distance. But it was scary because like you don't know if someone's gonna hit you, and I rather run with traffic than against traffic, even though you can see better when you're running against traffic. But I decided to just run with traffic and go from there. So I finally get to a section where now there's bike lanes and sidewalks, and I'm looking to my right, and I just see this I could hear the thunder off in the distance, but I couldn't tell which direction it was going because, again, I had all these mansions and condos and everything that was blocking my view. So I could tell it was dark out west, but I couldn't tell what direction it was going. And I couldn't see how large the storm was until I finally could, and I was like, oh, this is going to be bad. Because, again, now I'm in an area where there's nowhere to go. Like, it's private buildings and complexes and everything on the beach side, and just the intercoastal on the opposite side. So there's nowhere. You got some palm trees for cover. That's about it. And I see this storm coming. I see the lightning, and I know it's about to get bad. Now, normally, kind of like I mentioned earlier, like I look for and ask for the rain. Like, bring it every once in a while. It's a nice refresher. It cools you down. It brings me life. It turns me into a kid almost. Like, I start having so much more fun, and I typically get some more energy and life in my legs. And as this storm starts coming, it wasn't hail, but the rain was hard enough that it felt like tiny hail. And the tailwind was nice because it was definitely pushing me, and I was picking up my pace a little bit. But now it's like it's lightning close, like the type of lightning that makes you jump. Like, I'm mid stride and I'm like jumping, and and I'm just laughing, and I'm like for y'all that know Lucian hot chocolate, like every time that was going off, I was doing that ooh wee, like it was just I'm like, yo, that's close. Oh man, and cars are just going by. Like, now puddles are forming on the side of the road. I have nowhere to go to avoid them. If I could, I would, but it's like, at this point, it's like, look, you just got to push, right? The storm is here. It's not going anywhere for a while. But it gave me life. I was having fun. I was making a lot of jokes to myself. And like, my pace picked up. I was doing great compared to how I was feeling for the last few miles up until that point. So I was getting encouraged because, like, now I'm past 50. I'm in the early 50s. So now I'm halfway. I hit 50 miles at like 11 hours and 35 minutes. So, I'm on pace. I knew I wasn't going to do sub 24, but I always, every time I hit 50 under 12 or around 12, I'm like, oh yeah, 24 hours is doable. and then reality really kicks in. But I was just telling myself, like, I wanted to do it in under 30 hours because the cutoff for New York was 30 hours. So I wanted to at least do it in the time that they were allowing. That was my goal. If not, whatever, 100 is still 100, but I was trying to do it under 30. So the only concern at this point now, though, is again the rain. The negative to it is, if you guys remembered or if you heard the episode about the Miami 100, is trench foot. I got it during that race. Obviously, the rain was even worse, and it was a lot longer, and it was a lot earlier in the race. So I had to deal with it a lot longer. But at this point, still, you're thinking, all right, I still got 48, 47 miles to go, and my feet are already starting to feel bad. Like, it was starting to feel like how it felt at the Miami 100, and I was concerned. Again, there's nothing I could do. There was nowhere I could go to hide for shelter, to stay dry. At that point, I was already soaked anyways. Like, there was no drying off, right? So I start texting people, hey, I'm getting concerned, because like I can start to feel the skin under my feet kind of moving around. And last time that happened, it got ugly. For those that don't know, when I pushed through that in the Miami 100, the rain and everything, when it got to that point, was like around 33 miles. And I pushed through, but around like in the 60s. So let's just say 30 miles after that, the skin was peeling off. Like it was bad. And I was able to kind of walk on different parts of my feet to avoid it up until about 82. And I had to just drop out because it was like everything was locking up because the way I was compensating my form to stay off the balls of my feet in the areas that were damaged was just making things too painful. And then my back was locking up and starting to spasm, and it was just like so much was going bad. And then when I got home, I couldn't walk for like a week. Like legitimately, I was crawling around on my hands and knees, or I would, like, once my heels started feeling better, I would get on my back and kind of push myself around the house on my feet, like off my heels, because I just could not put any weight on my feet because the skin was almost gone. And then I ended up getting a nasty fever for a couple days because it got infected, and it was bad. So I'm thinking about all that and remembering all that as I'm starting to feel the way I'm feeling in my feet, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to risk this. So I knew there was a park coming up, like around 56 miles or so. So I go to the park, and of all things, right? Like, it's people say, oh, it's flat, it's Florida, we're on the beach. I had to go up this hill that was probably a good 20-25 feet, like just a steep incline, just to get to the bathrooms. Like, why couldn't they be at the street level? Why do I have to climb 20 feet up to go to the bathroom? So my ideal and my hopes were that I would go up there, use the those little hand dryer, blow dryer machines that they have in the bathroom. I was going to use that to kind of dry out my socks a little bit. I was going to wring them out as much as I could, use that to dry them off, or like put them on the park bench in the sun to kind of dry off. And I would either lay with my feet out in the sun to try to get some air of some of that breeze and sun to dry off a little bit, or I was going to try to lift my legs a little bit at a time under the blow dryer. But at 56 miles, the way my hips were feeling and locked up, that was not going to happen. I'm sorry. Like, thank God no one was in there, because if somebody would have walked in and saw what I probably looked like, just imagine it. Like, seriously. Oh my God. And then, with the chocolate chip cookie shorts on, and oh my God. So I'm just like, all right. So I put this. And then another idea I had was I was going to take paper towels, and I was going to like lay them on the inside of the shoe. I was maybe even going to put some, maybe one or two in my socks, like just anything to absorb a little bit of the moisture and take it away. But they didn't even have paper towels. They just had the blow dryer machine, which is why I was then like, okay, let me try to see if I can stick my legs up here and try my feet off. So then I turn around and I'm looking at all the little pavilions and bathrooms. There's no water fountain. That was another reason I wanted to stop there, because I had my little Gatorade packets that I could, put the powder in my water bottle, pour water in there, shake it up, and I got Gatorade. But there was no water fountain. Like, this is a public park on the beach, and you have no water fountain. I looked. I made sure I wasn't just being delusional. Maybe I looked. I didn't see him anywhere. So, and then no vending machines either. Like, I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna buy something to drink, or maybe there'll be like a food vending machine too. Nothing. This park is terrible. I'm not even gonna tell you what park it is. So I at that point I just, because now I'm also trying to like stretch and loosen up in the meantime, because the longer I sit there, you start getting tight and sore, and the adrenaline is dropping. So I just remember texting my friends, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna have to call Uber, because even if I shortcut it, right? Let's say I don't do the full 100 miles. At that point where I looked, even if I was to zigzag my way back home to make a shortcut, it was going to be around 80 something miles. So I still had a good 25 to 30 miles to go. Like, that's not good. So some of my friends that live locally were offering to come get me. They would meet me somewhere. So I said, well, look, at this point, given the circumstance, like, I felt fine other than the feet. And again, the feet even still felt okay, but I could feel the skin starting to slide and pull. And I know after a couple hours of doing that, it's going to finally break. And that's where I'm risking everything happening again. And I knew it was not going to hold up for another 45-ish miles. So I said, you know what? If I can make 100K, I'll be satisfied. If I get the 62.13 or whatever it is, then cool. I'll be happy with 100K given the circumstances and everything that happened. I'll take it, right? So I'm shuffling. I finally hit one of the beach accesses that gets me back to like Federal Highway, and so I get in. There's a Wendy's right there, so I'm like, yo, I'm gonna get me a burger and a nice drink. So I get in there. The guy doesn't even charge me for the soda. He says, I'm just gonna charge you for the burger. And now I know why, and I knew why instantly, because I go over. They had no ice, and the soda was flat. So I'm just like, all right, well, I still need something to eat, right? And I'll just drink the flat soda. Anything is better than nothing, right? I got to keep going. And that's the thing. Like with me, like I can feel every time I stopped at the gas station, it was when I knew I had to, because I could feel the energy level dropping and my speed was dropping. My mentality was getting negative. And as soon as I get that food and drink back in me, it's like within 5-10 minutes, I'm going again. So I'm eating this burger and I turn the corner and there's a McDonald's, and I'm like, perfect. I got the McDonald's app. I got rewards points. Let's go. So I go in there. I get some fries. I get an actual carbonated ice cold soda. And oh my gosh, like energy levels instantly kicked back up. And now I'm just, my pace is back to like what it was before the rain. Like I'm hitting 13-minute miles, 14-ish at times, but like I'm kind of booking it. And now I'm like thinking, should I try to at least push for the 80? But again, like every time, because again, I'm doing the walk run motions at this point, and every time I would stop to take the walk break, I could feel it. So when I ran, because I was like kind of heel striking, it was okay. But as I would walk and I'm pushing off, like my foot was flexing more, I could feel the skin more and more, like under the toes, just pulling and pulling. And I could even feel like the skin opened in one section under, like between my big toe and the second toe. Like I could feel it starting to open, and I'm like, yep, like this, I'm risking it big time. And the thing is, just like in Miami, when you try to at that point say, okay, I'm going to stay on my heels, your shins just get so tight and locked up because you're not flexing your foot. You're just walking on your heels. And it just like, even right now, like as I was out this morning, I went to the gym and I went to run some errands. The only thing sore right now is my shins, because I was doing so much compensating and staying off the mid and forefoot that my shins were just tight and locked up and taking the pounding and not flexing and getting tight. So my coworker and friend that I had been texting throughout the entire time, that lives fairly close, was like, hey, I'll come get you. So at this point, I'm just trying to not be an inconvenience. So I'm like trying to get as far as I can or as close to her as I can, just to make her drive a little less. And we're texting like every couple of minutes, like, hey, where are you? All right, I'm here. Okay, I'm here. Now I'm here. I'm working this way. Now I'm going here. And we realized we were pretty close. And I, just being kind of the perfectionist that I am, I noticed when I got to the intersection of I think it was Military and Atlantic Ave, that it was going to be 66 miles on the dot. So I said, I'm stopping at Military and I'll wait for you at the Burger King. That way I stop right on an even number. And that's what happened. I got to mile 66, stopped the watch, sat down. I got a little emotional because things happen. Things happen that are out of your control. Had I been in New York, I had drop bags set for different shoes and different socks and clothes along the way to avoid something like this. And when you make an attempt to run 100 miles on your own, this is going to happen. Yeah, I had a friend that stopped and brought me food and some ice at one point. But again, it's... And this was the other thing. So a friend did ask me, like, did you not bring extra socks? And I was like, I should have. I thought about it, but I didn't think it was going to be like this when I looked at the weather for the weekend in all of the areas. I just did not think it was going to be like that. So when I look back, even if I had brought the socks at that point, it wouldn't have mattered because, yes, I would have put on dry socks, but my feet were already wet. And, yeah, maybe I could have then taken a break, especially with how far I was time-wise. I could have taken a break and let my feet dry out. But I don't know. Like, that's another thing. When my friend picked me up and we started heading south to take me home, there was just a nasty storm out that way. And when I woke up the next morning, which I was planning at that time to still be out and in this area now heading back to the finish, it was pouring and lightning and storming out there. So it was like I was still going to have to go through a bunch of storms for the last 34 miles, and my feet would have just continued to get tore up. And I just did not want to risk. I didn't want to have to go through what I went through after Miami. I didn't want to deal with the fever. I didn't want to deal with not being able to walk around for the next few days. It just wasn't worth it. They say you get wiser as you get older, right? So I realized that it wasn't a failure. Yes, the attempt was a failed attempt, but it wasn't. There wasn't anything that I think I did wrong. So I can look at it now and say I'm okay with it. It happened. I felt so strong, even in those last 10 miles, because it was at 56 that I said, I'm just going to try to make it to 62. From 56 to 66, I was still hitting 13 to 14 minute miles, staying under that 15 minute average that I was hoping to have. Like, I felt great. All the gym workouts, all the training, everything was on point. My hydration, my nutrition, everything was on point. I was great. So that's why I look at this now like, okay, that didn't work, but if in a couple weeks I get the opportunity, maybe a couple months, give it a little time. Let's see how quickly I want to get back out there already, right? It's a passion. I love it. I love the challenge. I love the unknown, pushing yourself. But I do see, before the end of the year, I would like to try this again. Maybe after hurricane season when the rain's a little more predictable. But I'm not done. Like this reaffirmed and reignited the flame within me that I haven't had since the Wildcat DNF back in September last year. Like, this really confirmed that I still really love doing this and I really enjoy it, and I'm not done. So with that said, I just want to encourage you guys, as I always do. When my friend messaged me this morning and reminded me of the episode when I talked about this race and how it was titled "If It's Meant to Be," and everything was aligning for me to go, and I was like, well, then it must be meant to be, and then it doesn't happen, right? You just it's a huge letdown. But I had other friends during that time when I told them I couldn't go, and they were like, well, you were meant to run here. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm meant to run here, and then I DNF this attempt, right? I stop at 66, and I'm like, what lesson am I supposed to learn from here, right? Because we all say things happen for a reason. So there's something I'm going to take out of it if I haven't already. I was definitely, and now it's hitting me again here. Definitely was emotional, not because I didn't feel like a failure. I still don't. I just wish I had the opportunity to go and do what I planned to do in New York. I would have had a better chance at succeeding and hitting my goal. But there's nothing you could do about it, right? And I was thinking about it this morning on my way to the gym even. I said, now as I think from my perspective now, my current state, I'm like, I could have pushed through. I could have kept going. And it's where you can't judge even yourself for making decisions. You can't regret decisions. You can't second guess. You have to realize in that moment while I was saying those things, I was reminded I'm not in the same conditions I was during that time. Now I feel more recovered. I feel more fresh. I was in the car driving in the AC when I said that. My feet are dry and comfortable, and I'm moving. I'm more flexible right now. It's easy to say that now compared to Saturday night, 57, 58 miles in with your feet peeling. And that's why I won't judge anybody that drops out of a race, because I don't know what you're dealing with. I don't know the circumstances. Things happen to all of us that are out of our control, and we make decisions for a reason. And if you're happy with the decision that you made, then who am I to question that or judge that? It's your life. It's your decision. As long as you're happy with it and you can live with it and you can grow from it, then who am I, right? So as hard on myself as I was a little bit the last 24 hours, just thinking about it and knowing how strong, just like in Miami, how strong I felt otherwise, I think that was the only part that was really just heartbreaking and disappointing, because everything else was clicking. I was, to be honest, at that point, I probably would have gotten, it wouldn't have been official because it wasn't an official race, but I was on pace to run my personal best time in that 100-mile distance. I hit 66 miles at 15 hours and 38 minutes. So I had 34 miles to go. There was a good chance I was going to do under, I think, 26:45 is my PR. I'm pretty sure I could have done 34 miles in under 9 hours or so. I think it's doable. So 9-10 hours, my math ain't all there right now. I'm still recovering physically and mentally. But it's just, I want to say thank you to all of my friends that I was texting excuse me. Francine, you told me you like when I don't edit, so I'm not going to edit that out. I really just want to say thank you to all of you that were on that journey with me as I sent the texts and the photos and the jokes that you guys were making. Like at the one part where before I got to the beach, there was a building that said Phil's Point. And, it was just like the jokes that you guys were making about that. And when I took the picture of the 100-mile sign on the turnpike, the jokes you guys were making, just the words of encouragement that was given and the advice that was given, the support when I said I was going to call an Uber, the way you guys even checked on me to make sure I was okay, and if my friend came and got me, did I make it home? I can't thank you guys enough for that. And that's where I'm getting emotional. That's where I felt just a little disappointed, because I didn't want to feel like I let anybody down. I didn't want to feel like I knew, and I still believe, that I encourage so many people with what I do. A lot of people wish they could do or even have the passion to do and attempt what I do. So I think that's the part that hurt the most, is that you guys were like just so supportive and encouraging and keeping me out. Like when I was grinding those lows and negative, you guys really got me out of those moments. You really got my spirits lifted. So yeah, like I want to thank each and every one of you. You know who you are. Seriously, thank you. Here I am being a big baby again. I said I wasn't gonna cry. I knew it was coming though. Like during the race, I felt it, and I was like, I know at some point in the next 24 to 48 hours, this is gonna come out. And there it was. It was little. I was able to control it a little bit. But it's just like I see all these different things from the race, different moments that happened, the highs and lows, and it was just like, wow, I love this. Like it's so demanding and physically abusive to the body, but oh my God, like it's something about it, the thrill, the excitement, the challenge. As long as I can physically still go at it, I'm not done yet. I'm gonna keep trying. I'm gonna see how many more of these I can do. So again, I don't want to drag this out any longer. I don't have any races planned up. I'll figure something out. I'll probably do something solo. Unfortunately, just with everything going on in my personal life, I don't have the ability to really take time off to go anywhere for a race. I can't afford to go anywhere for a race. Actually, I guess I'll throw this out there. If I can, maybe I can plan. To be honest, I'd like to do this. I want to attempt this course again, because it was a pretty sweet course, to be honest. But I'd like to do something where I can run 100 miles locally and have friends along the way that can stop and just bring me stuff that I need to avoid situations like this, to where I can have a change of shoes and socks or towels or food, so I don't always have to deviate from the course and add steps and distance to go and get stuff, saving more time. So maybe that's something I'll look into planning, but for now I'm just going to continue what I've been doing. I'm on goal to beat last year's mileage, which was a PR for me. So I'm probably going to PR again for miles in a year, for me at least. But yeah, I just want to continue to encourage you guys, like whatever it is you're passionate about, whatever you have fun doing, whatever it is that you feel challenges you and makes you a better person, go for it. And don't be afraid of the failure. You're gonna fail. It's part of the journey, right? There's things that are out of your control. Just make the best of it. As I was doing this weekend, it wasn't as fun without other runners, without being in a new area with new views, and like it was way more boring than if I got to run in New York. But I made the best of it, and I was having fun, and that's what counts, and that's what makes it doable. People ask all the time, like, how do you do this? And I'm like, well, it's just like when people go to the gym all the time and they spend hours in there and they go every day. I can't, like, I'm in the gym for about 20-25 minutes and I'm like, I'm ready to go. Like, I had enough. So, I get on a bike and my butt's going numb in 15 minutes and I'm just, I'm done. Like, this is boring. Get me off this bike. I want to go run or something. So I get it. We all have different passions and things that excite us and that we enjoy. So as long as it's benefiting you and you enjoy it, and again, you don't have any regrets about it, then live your life. But until then, keep your head up. Stay positive. Support your friends. If they have something going on, I really encourage you to encourage them and support them. We all need, as strong and will-minded as a lot of us may seem to be, it's always nice to hear those words of encouragement, words of affirmation. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just make it authentic, make it sincere. We'll know the difference.
Thanks for listening to the Mile You're In podcast. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, share, and subscribe.